You got lost on the beach, but someone found you and brought you back, and I were disappointed. We built a kite, it got away. We bought a balloon and it popped. We got some chips. I dropped the lot and some teenage girls reported Uncle Ted. Granny sang karaoke in a bar. Mum went off with a waiter. Dad tore into the whiskey. Grandad went off to the nudist beach, so we followed him, but it were all old fat men and that were horrible. So we came back and found Dad being sick on a policeman's boots. "They're not my kids," he shouted when he saw us, and we were hard to recognize under the candy floss and muck what we had got from the shore, and we were sticky as well. Grandad had a go at the shooting game. He shot Dad in the rear. Dad fell off the pier. A helicopter came to fish him out. Granny had one of her turns and started to froth. You picked the pockets of strangers and then we went home, but we got lost on the way back and accidentally went to Scotland. Oh, it were horrid in Scotland, cold and wet, and you couldn't understand a word anyone said, and they gave us a haggis, and that were a terrible thing. But Dad said the whiskey in Scotland, it was the best in the world, and Grandad said that's right, and got some. And Granny said what the men they didn't wear pants, and Mum said that were a good thing. And Uncle Ted talked to some Scottish girls, and he told them that he was pretty. At least that's what he said, but the girls reported him anyway, and you stole the boat, and I got the blame, and that was typical. I had taken you for a walk while Mum and Dad fought about whether they should get Uncle Ted out of prison, and Granny practised a Highland fling what were horrible to see, and Grandad went into town to buy some bagpipes, whatever bagpipes is, and you and me went to the lake, but what it was called a loch, and we found a boat, and you got in and accidentally it got untied, so I got in as well, and we sort of floated away. We found some oars, but you wouldn't row because you wanted to steer, and I wouldn't row because I were older than you, so I had to steer. Then we fought and dropped the oars in the water, what floated away as well. Then we both rowed with our hands and went round in circles and fought. Then you saw something in the water, and I said it were the monster. Mum had said there weren't a real monster in the loch, it was just a thing to get tourists to come, like Stonehenge. But I said there were a monster, because I wanted to frighten you, but the thing in the water came closer and closer, and it were scary. Then it came out of the water all dripping and terrible, and it were Granny out for a swim. We got the boat back, just as Grandad turned up with his bagpipes, and he stood on the shore and he blew the bags up and they made a horrible wailing, and on the far side of the loch we saw a blinking great monster climb out of the water and gallop away, trying to get away from the sound, and Mum turned up with a big hairy man what was wearing a dress, and she said it were true and looked happy, but we didn't know what she meant. Dad said it were time to go home, so we went home, but we forgot Uncle Ted, so we left him behind, and that's what we did when we went to the beach.